Okay. Hi, Dr. Kaloostian. How are you?
Hey, Douglas, good. I'm doing fantastic. I'm a big fan. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Have you seen the show?
Absolutely.
Oh, great. Well, I appreciate that. So, you are a neurosurgeon in Los Angeles, yeah?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I bet you've seen some things.
Oh, man. Uh, I don't know where to begin.
Briefly explain to people what a neurosurgeon actually is and does, just in case somebody doesn't know.
Yeah, that's a great question. So a neurosurgeon is an expert in treating disorders of the brain and spine and peripheral nerves. And specifically, we uh, provide surgical management for the most part in treating patients with such problems. So, pathology like brain tumors or spinal cord tumors or arthritis of the spine or carpal tunnel syndrome. Those are some of the things that we deal with and we treat typically surgically, but in some cases non surgically, depending on what the patients would need.
Okay. I did have a peruse on your website, and I noticed dementia was listed on there. What can you do these days for dementia? Is there actually surgical procedures available
Yeah,
for it?
yeah, there really isn't surgical procedures specifically for the standard dementias. And it really depends on which disorder we're talking about. So there's a variety of different disorders that can cause dementia. The ones I'm sure your audience and you are more familiar with is perhaps Alzheimer's disease. You've probably heard that being thrown out there, which is extremely common. I mean, more and more people are having that type of disorder, and that disease is associated with dementia in its end stage. But there's other types. Even patients with Parkinson's disease, where they shake, they can eventually have dementia as well. We used to do procedures where we put these stimulators into the deep part of the brain to help patients with Parkinson's disease. So there are a lot of experts that do that in neurosurgery. And so for that particular type of disease that is treatable, Michael J. Fox, the famous actor, has had that, and others. So it's a very common disorder. But for the most part, dementia really isn't treatable surgically, but there are medications out there that your primary care doctor can provide to really alter the trajectory of dementia, improve cognition, and other types of modalities.
Well, from what's been explained to me, as well as what you just said, the drugs that they use to treat dementia slows the process of the disease to the point where people who are in their 70s, 80s tend to die of something else before the dementia gets too severe. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And also, I would add to that improve quality of life during that time frame. So we can lengthen life and lengthen the onset of dementia. But what's important to understand is also that quality of life is improved pretty nicely for those patients on specific medications. So I think that's important to also understand.
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest positive gain with that is just to improve quality of life. You've got some books out, and I got a kick out of this. I just want to read it if you don't mind. It
Sure.
says his main goal is to break the stigma that doctors are rigid, book smart people who lack a creative and artistic side. So this is kind of a campaign like doctors are people too type campaign. Yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay. All right. Tell us about which book are you promoting? What's the title of the book?
Well, I have a few books, but I think the one I really enjoy writing was the Young Neurosurgeon: Lessons from My Patients.
Okay.
And yeah, so that it's quite an interesting book. I really enjoyed putting that together. That was during my residency and fellowship training, where I was really just doing crazy hours, but finding some time, I don't know how, but finding some time in the middle of the night to put together case scenarios of real life experiences I had, and jotting them down, and trying to describe in the best way possible how these patients affected me, but how I affected them as well. And a lot of my patients have read this book, and as well as my other poetry books that I've written, and they seem to enjoy it. It helps them during the recovery process. And I really just wanted to highlight how brave, how courageous patients are. We're all have been, or we're going to be patients at some point in our lives. That's just how it is in this life. And we need to really understand that patients are brave. Being sick is not easy. It's very difficult to be sick. It's not a good feeling. I'm sure you know that, and we all can feel that. And but we forget about it. We don't talk about it. Patients have a brain surgery. I take out their tumor, and no one talks about it. They're in rehabilitation for months, getting better and better, and these stories are not told. And I mean, millions and millions and millions of people undergo so many difficult problems. And even now with COVID, imagine all these patient struggles, and really no one's documenting it. It's as if it never happened. So I really wanted to put just a few of these stories together that really affected me.
Who's harder to deal with in general, the patient or the family of the patient?
Well, I don't think anyone's hard to deal with, honestly. I think it all comes down to communication, Doug. And you may have experienced this with interactions in your own life, but what I've learned is that it all comes down to how you interact with people. You could have people that just are not happy, and they're maybe depressed, or they're scared. Maybe family members are scared for their kids who are undergoing a procedure. So, they're not going to be happy. They're not always going to be nice, and that's okay. We all can be like that. We're human. We have emotion. But I think as a doctor, we have that obligation, that duty to just respect and understand what people are going through, and not be condescending, but be respectful and appreciative and understanding what they may be going through, understand their situation, and just work through it. So I don't think anyone's really hard to deal with.
I guess there is a sort of a balancing act for you and for people like police officers and anybody on the front lines, where on the one hand you have to be compassionate and sympathetic. On the other hand, you don't want to be taking every case home with you in your head and letting it affect you too much emotionally, right? I mean, you have to kind of be able to disconnect at some point.
Those are very wise words, Douglas, and absolutely you are right. And it's something that you don't get taught in this long training process, right?
Yeah.
15 years of school and training, and 130-hour weeks, middle of the night surgeries, sacrifice. They don't teach you that. There's no class on how to, have a good life and be a neurosurgeon, be a police officer and be a firefighter. We were dealing with these very, very difficult problems. Imagine what people are going through, seeing COVID patients now, in the ER, in the front lines. It's tough. It's not easy. And it is a balancing act of some sorts. And I think, people need more training on it. You see so many people in medicine, even respiratory therapists, nurses, that are depressed, they're stressed out, some are suicidal, and it's understandable. I mean, you don't get sleep, you're scared, you're stressed, you're not eating right. That affects your family, and it could be a downward spiral. So you have to really find ways to decompress, stay healthy, because if you're not healthy, you're not going to provide the best care for your patients. So that's important to understand.
That's true. Well, since you brought up COVID and you're in LA, I just thought I'd ask you, and you're a doctor, what is the situation? Is it exactly what we're seeing on the main news, or it's hard to believe these days, who to believe, I should say, because of all the fake news and this and that. And I have a hard time with news media deciding which stories are embellished, shall we say, and which ones are accurate. But what is your assessment. What are you seeing at the hospitals these days with COVID?
Yeah, Doug, I really agree with you on the news aspect of it. We really need something different now. I mean, all these news stations are really not, ideal. I think they're trying, but I think it's really hard from their leadership perspective to really be unbiased. We really need some unbiased source. But in terms of the COVID conditions, it's terrible, honestly. Um, I just checked on my email about an hour ago. We have 176 COVID positive patients in one of the hospitals I work at. It was 28, I think, about 3 weeks ago. So I was like really happy that it was 28, and then all of a sudden it just jumped up. Now it's 176. And I was just there operating last night, I believe, on an emergency case, and makes you a little scared. You get anxious. It's a virus. The virus is everywhere. And if you have 176 positive patients in the hospital, it's probably going to be everywhere in the hospital by this time. So it's very scary. I think the ICU beds at most hospitals in California are pretty depleted. We have patients that are being kept in the emergency room, and these are ICU patients, very sick patients. They're being kept in the emergency room because there just simply isn't beds, and they're sick patients. They need care, and they're getting the care in the ER. It's just, what else can you do? And so it's very scary. I never thought we'd come to this point, Doug, where hospital beds would be a limiting factor. I never honestly thought that would happen. I mean, most of the time there's ample beds available, but at this rate, it's pretty scary what's going on.
So when I hear a statistic like 15% ICU capacity, that's referring to 15% available ICU capacity, right?
That's right.
Not 15% occupied.
Correct. No, that's whatever's remaining.
Whatever's remaining. Okay. All right. Because it's a little confusing. When you hear capacity, they're at 15% capacity, you think initially, oh, they've only got 15%. That means they've got 85% left. But no, it's the other way around.
That's correct. It's the other way around. And it's just really perplexing and what's going on. I think there's just the care really, nationwide has really not been ideal, unfortunately. And although the virus is a dangerous virus, it really is. It's not like any other virus we've ever had. But still, I think there needs to be some sort of preparation for this. I mean, this can't happen again 10 years from now. We need to be cognizant that this potentially could happen with another virus in the near future. And we need to all be ready to handle that.
Is the vaccine coming? Have you seen it yet? Is it at your hospitals?
I haven't seen it yet. I read an article today, I think, that it's going to be shipped out from a Michigan facility. This is the Pfizer vaccine, so it's going to be shipped out tomorrow. Okay. And I guess, healthcare workers are the first line people to get it, and people, I think, above 70 or so with comorbidities and other medical conditions.
Okay, so you would be first in line to get it if you wanted it, right?
That's right.
Okay, well, you have to let me know. Send me an email. Let me know what kind of side effects you had, if any.
Okay.
And then maybe I'll get it. We got to kind of wrap this down, but I did want to ask you how your books are doing. And now you've written 3 books, you said?
That's right.
Okay, and how long have they been out? Or
I think they've been out for about 4 or 5 years now.
Oh, okay. And are you getting good sales on them? Are they people picking them up?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not really interested in the sales. I really enjoy writing them. I enjoy when patients come to me and say, I loved your book, or people, neighbors come to me and say, I didn't know you're a writer. I love your book. I learned a lot from it. That to me is worth more than any sort of financial gain.
So these are just sort of personal anecdotes of what you've gone through, people you've experienced and come in contact with, yeah?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. All right, well, that sounds very interesting. Do you have a website that you want to give out so people can come check you out, check out your books?
Yeah, it's drpaulwriting.com. So it's drpaulwriting.com. You'll find all my books on that site. You can Google me, and you'll see some other press that I've done. And I look forward to getting it out there. The fact that doctors can do more than just their rigid formula-based practices. They can be creative people. We can make a difference in other aspects besides the science that we do. And I just wanted to showcase the strength and courageousness and bravery of patients and really highlight them. I think patients are just such strong people, and especially in the field I'm in. What they go through is just amazing, and I'm in awe, and I'm humbled to really interact with them and to see how they progress and heal.
Great. Well, Doctor, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was a pleasure talking to you, and best of luck with everything.